Él es el creador del modelo Octalysis y pionero en la gamificación a nivel mundial. Su trabajo ha sido presentado en medios internacionales como la revista Forbes y Wall Street Journal. Ha sido clasificado como número 1 en top 100 gurús de gamificación en el mundo por RISE y gurú de gamificación del año en el Congreso Mundial de Gamificación, además de ser speaker en Stanford, Yale y Oxford, entre otras instituciones. Y además es autor de un famoso libro, Actional Gamification, Beyond Points, Badges, and Leaderboards. Welcome, Yu Kai, to our stage.
Hello. Yes, good to be here. This is my first time in Chile, actually. And I'm just wrapping up a month-long tour in South America, starting from Peru to Colombia to Brazil. And I'm actually flying out today after this speech. But I've had such a great time in Chile, so many great people. I enjoyed a lot of good food here. And I learned how to say, I have to say bo at the end of every sentence. So today I'm here to share about the Octalysis framework, which is a framework in gamification and behavioral design. So I think there was a quick background on myself, but I started my journey in gamification and behavioral design in 2003, so 21 years ago now. And it made me an early pioneer in the industry. People didn't really understand it, but I was really passionate about it. So over the years, I was very lucky that companies, organizations, and even governments started to care about it. And I happened to be there doing it for the longest. And so I was rated the #1 gamification guru in the world out of a list of 100, I think 3 out of 4 years. And 1 year I was #2. Then later they made me a judge. So unfortunately I became disqualified to being a guru. But through our design work, we have empowered over 1.5 billion users. And we hope to reach the next billion in Latin America. And I've taught a lot of this framework that I'm sharing today at places like Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, Yale, Tesla, Google IDEO, and various governments like Singapore, Bahrain, United Kingdom, the Netherlands. And here's a variety of companies that we worked with before. A lot of people have a misconception. They think, hey, Yukai works with gamification, so he must be working with a lot of gaming companies. But in fact, the sweet spot of gamification are things that are very, very important, but potentially mundane, boring, or even intimidating. So a lot of companies in healthcare, retail, finance, insurance, and of course, a lot of work falls in that category. It's important, but not most people think that it's very exciting. And I'm not gonna go through the list, but you can see that VP at Google in Mountain View, partner executive director at IDEO, and the co-founder of Ethereum, the cryptocurrency. They all have very good things to say when working with my company, the Octalysis Group. And wrote a book called Actionable Gamification. This link just takes to Amazon. Actually, if you go to the Think Go booth next to entrance, there's actually a little drawing event that will give out 2 of my signed books. So you can check it out if you think the conversation is interesting today. And if you don't want to read a book to learn about gamification, I also create a gamified platform to learn about gamification called Octalysis Prime. And I made 1,200 videos on it, and it's actually a nice case study for gamified HR. Because before I had this platform, when people join my company, I actually needed 10 months of training for these new employees to be able to represent our brand and work with these biggest companies in the world like Microsoft, Walgreens, Salesforce. But after this platform was launched, people sign up, they start learning, and they watch through all the 1,200 videos on their own time. So when they actually join my company, it only takes 2 weeks to get them prepared. So we really shrunk 10 months of training to 2 weeks. And also it's a great recruitment tool for us. A lot of people were curious, they go onto it, they learn, and they were able to find the best people in this gamified learning community and just bringing the best, and they're all pre-trained. Now, what is gamification? Gamification is applying all the fun, exciting elements of games into what we call boring non-game context. Things that you have to do, but you don't necessarily want to do. And so at the core of gamification is something we call human-focused design, as opposed to function-focused design. Most systems are function-focused. They assume that people in the system will do the desired behavior, And then it optimizes for efficiency, for productivity, for usability, ergonomics. So it's a bit like a factory where you assume people will do their work, and then again, you just figure out how to maximize your production, right? Your efficiency, productivity. But human-focused design remembers that people in the system, they have feelings, they have motivations, they have insecurities, they have reasons why they do or do not want to do something, and it optimizes for that. So that's a bit more like a theme park where you design it to be really fun, and then you can predict that people automatically want to line up for hours. And so what's interesting about this example is that in the case of a factory, you're paying these people to do relatively mundane work of factory life. But in the case of a theme park, they're actually paying you to stand in line for hours and hours just to enjoy those few minutes of fun. And so the reason why we call this gamification is because I believe the gaming industry is the first to master human-focused design. Because there's no real purpose to playing a game, right? You never have to play a game. You have to do your training, you have to pay your taxes or take your pills. Even if you don't like it, you just have to persevere and keep pushing. But again, for a game, you never have to play a game. The moment a game is no longer fun, you leave the game. You play another game, you check your email, you go to YouTube. Even if a game was amazing for 10 months, on month number 11, if it's not fun, you leave. So because games have spent decades or even centuries, depending on how you qualify a game, figuring out how to get people to come back for sometimes 6, 7, 8 hours a day, doing often very repetitive actions like throwing out a bird, throwing out a bird, throwing out a bird, or matching 3 gems, matching 3 gems, matching 3 gems. We're now learning from that discipline, and that's what we call it gamification. So this is what I'm most famous for. It's called the Octalysis framework. It's the combination between the English words octagon and analysis. And what it does is break down all human motivation into 8 core drives. So inside there's the 8 core drives, and outside there's an example list, not exhaustive list, of various game design techniques and strategies that can bring out those 8 core drives. Now this chart at the beginning is usually very complex. So usually when we start, we just look at the center. Now what's unique about these 8 core drives is that everything we do in life is based on one or more of these 8 core drives, which means that if there's none of these 8 core drives there, there's zero motivation, no behavior happens. Each and one of you are here because of at least one of these 8 core drives. Some people are here because of core drive 7, unpredictability and curiosity. Hey, I'm just curious, what is this conference about, or gamification, let me check it out. Some people are here because of core drive 5, social influence and relatedness. A friend told me about it, a colleague invited me, so I'm here. I imagine many of you are here because of core drive 2, development and accomplishment. Hey, I really want to improve my skills, level up, and do my work better. Occasionally, we have people in the room that's motivated by core drive 1, epic meaning and calling. Hey, I really think this can change the world, and it's where the future's at. I want to be part of it. When I travel to different countries and do talks, there's also core drive 6, scarcity and impatience. Hey, the speaker only comes to my country once a year or once every 10 years, so let me reprioritize my schedule to come. And when I do the private internal workshops with companies, some people are here just because of core drive 8, loss and avoidance. Oh, I don't want to get fired, so I show up. And hopefully that's none of your motivations or not your only motivation. But the key thing is that without these 8 core drives, you wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be speaking, your colleagues are not working, and your customers are not buying. Okay, nothing happens. Even the drive to eat and stay alive is part of these 8 core drives. So today we're going to explore what these 8 core drives are. We're going to go through some examples, especially some of the case studies the Octalysis group has created, because that's a bit more exclusive content. And then we're going to discuss the different natures of those core drives. Some are what we call white hat motivation core drives that make people feel powerful, in control, they feel good. But there's no sense of urgency, so they procrastinate. And some are what we call black hat motivation core drives that make people feel urgent, obsessed, sometimes even addicted. But in the long run, it could leave a bad taste in their mouths because they feel like they're not in control of their own behavior. And we're going to talk about the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation core drives. So when I first created this framework in 2012, and I put it on my blog, I just wanted a tool to help companies and organizations solve problems. I didn't have any ambitions in academia, but after many years, if you go to Google Scholar and you search for my framework, Octalysis, you'll see over 3,000 PhD theses, academic journals, all referencing the framework on different topics like e-learning during COVID-19, e-commerce, using it through the public sector, gamification design for the elderly. So just feel very, very blessed and lucky that something that I'm just passionate about, I was very intellectually curious about, became something that not only stands strong in the commercial world, but also the academic world. So core drive 1 is epic meaning and calling. This is the drive that says we feel motivated because we feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves. This is, for instance, why people contribute to Wikipedia. We know that people don't contribute to Wikipedia because they can make money, but they don't even do it to advance their careers or update their resumes. A lot of people spend a few hours every day after work updating the history section or fixing the grammar of Wikipedia because they believe they're protecting humanity's knowledge, something bigger than themselves. And in a game, you often see this theme, right? The game will tell you, hey, the world's about to end, but somehow you're the only person qualified to save the world. And it feels very engaging, very motivating. People want to do it because for most people on a day-to-day basis, they don't really get to feel that they're making an impact in the world. They're doing something important or special. They feel like their work is mundane and they're just trying to make a living. So if there's an environment that makes them understand and feel like I am important in this world and I'm doing something big and making a difference, they're more motivated to do that. So this relates to an example when I went to Denmark. I was doing some consulting for Lego, and it was very important because they were very good at installing epic meaning and calling into the workplace. And so when I was there, they talked to me about all their values, they inspire creative play, et cetera, et cetera. And many companies have this purpose statement that sounds very epic and amazing, but most of the time, the employees realize, hey, no one really cares about the purpose statement. You know, the executives don't remember it, and so they don't take it seriously. But Lego, they take it very seriously. They always mention it again in every meeting. They say, this is our 6 principles. We want to inspire creative play. We want to do imagination. Even all the other companies I met in Denmark, they said, oh, the Lego people, they're very annoying because every meeting they say the same things at the beginning, like this is what we stand for. However, they also took sacrificial actions to prove they're serious, right? Because anyone can say we're making a difference. But Lego came to us and said, look, even though we work on inspiring creative play, most of the money that we made in the past 10 years came from sets like Star Wars and Avengers. And it's not very creative. You just follow the manual, you build the thing, and when you finish building it, you should take it apart. And that's when creativity comes in. You can make new things. But it's so beautiful, you just want to put it out there and it becomes a model. And they told me that, hey, even though we make a lot of money from this, this is not who we are. This is not our DNA. Can you teach us again how to bring creativity to our customers, right? So they're saying, we're willing to maybe make even a little bit less money, but we want to fulfill our purpose. And because of this, Lego employees start having this epic meaning and calling and self-sacrificial levels. Some people said they only plan to work there for 2 years and then job hop to another company. But they said they've been there for 16 years and they can't see themselves ever leaving because they feel like that is their destination. They're going to retire there. I met one person who told me that he got an opportunity to get promoted to become a director and a big salary raise, but he turned it down because he said his current position was better at fulfilling Lego's purpose statement because it's close to the customer, right? And for most people, that's a crazy thing. Most people think when they work in a big company, they work hard, they get promoted, get a bigger salary, and they keep repeating that. But when the organization says, look, we are very serious about this higher meaning and purpose, people start to resonate and say, yes, I am going to burn my life for this higher meaning and purpose. It's no longer about promotion. It's about helping people inspire creativity, imagination. And Google also has a very interesting concept of doing this. So in the early days of Google, the founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they came out of Stanford University as PhD, and they had a very interesting assumption that every employee at Google either is an entrepreneur or wants to be an entrepreneur. So just because they get paid doesn't mean they're going to still work there, right? They have to like to work there. So they thought, hey, how do we create an environment where we as Google founders would even want to work at this place as employees? And this is a very unique thought, right? Remember I said games are like human-focused design. You never have to play a game, right? So the game has to always be engaging. Whereas most companies think, we pay these people a salary, so they have to work, right? We don't have to motivate them or make it interesting for them. But the Google founder says, all right, let's have some core drive 1, epic meaning and calling. Google stands for 2 principles. Number one, we organize the world's information. And number two, we do no evil. So many engineers at the time thought, hey, I can get a paycheck anywhere because I'm a big talent. But at Google, I feel like I'm changing the world. And I'm one of the good guys. That's very important for me. I don't want to join an evil empire. So they use that. So core drive 2 is development accomplishment. This is the drive that says we feel motivated because we're improving ourselves, we are leveling up, and we're achieving mastery. Now, most of the points and badges you might have heard about in the gamification world fall into this core drive. Points are just mathematical counters. It shows you a sense of progression. So even though you're doing the same things over and over and over again, hey, at least you see this number getting bigger and bigger or this progress bar growing longer. For some people, that's like their work. It's like, oh, my job, every day I do the same things again and again and again. But at least I see my bank account growing bigger and bigger, so that makes me happy. Badges are what we call achievement symbols. It symbolizes a sense of accomplishment. So achievement symbols can be in many different forms. It could be badges, trophies, uniform changes. It could be black belt, white belt in martial arts. And of course, that has also barred itself into quality management with Six Sigma. But the key thing is that it must symbolize an accomplishment. If you give people a badge for every silly thing they do, then it's just an icon, right? It doesn't mean anything. It's like going to the store and buying a trophy and writing your name on it. It doesn't have anything that people are proud of, and they don't want to brag about it. So back to Google, right? Google says we want to motivate employees, and they noticed one thing, which is not every engineer could become a manager because maybe they don't have good interpersonal skills, but everyone wants to feel the sense of progression and growth. So they pioneered this new system where there's 7 levels of engineer. And so you can go from a level 3 engineer to a level 4 engineer, level 5 engineer. And actually later on nowadays, I think there's 12 levels now. But so people feel motivated and growth as they continue on working at Google. Core Drive 3 is empowerment of creativity and feedback. So this is basically like Lego. You give users the basic building blocks, and there's an infinite amount of ways for them to use their creativity, try different strategies, see feedback, and then adjust. And that's a very engaging process. So this core drive deals with things like giving people autonomy in the workplace, giving them a strategy, meaningful choices, and self-expression. And this deals with a lot of things in the education world. So if you look at kids who play card games like Magic the Gathering, or Pokemon or whatnot, there's actually a lot of information to remember. There's over 1,000 cards. Each cards have 2 to 6 different numbers, like your attack and defense. And the kids who play this game well not only memorize all the numbers, they memorize things like your card counters my card counters his card. And if you think about it, that's actually more information than the periodic table. It's like these kids not only memorize every single element on the periodic table, they memorize the exact weight and placement and exactly how every element interacts with any other element. So it's like these kids are geniuses, right? But if you ask the same kids, so what is the 4th element? They're gonna be like, I don't know, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, no idea, right? And it's not because they suddenly went from being geniuses to idiots, it's because of a change in motivation. When they study the periodic table, they're only trying to get an acceptable grade, not make their parents upset. And it doesn't matter if you're A student, B student, or C student. You study hard enough to get your acceptable grade, and then you stop. And you probably go and play games. But when they study for these card games, every card allows you to be more creative and use more strategies and beat your friends. And so if as a means to an end, you have to memorize a lot of information, that's not only tolerable, that's enjoyable. People love doing that. And so I have many clients who come to me and says, Yukai, our employees, they're like not very highly educated. They are blue collar workers. They don't have the intellectual capacities to memorize our insurance policies, our SOP, our menus. But from my experience, almost in all the situations, it's not a problem with intellectual capacity. It's a problem with motivation. These people, they go home, they watch football, soccer, and sports. They remember a lot of stats and what's going on, right? So you just have to make it motivating for them to actually make them memorize things and perform well in the workplace. Now back to Google. Remember, Google wants to engage their employees. And one of the things is they realize that a lot of people leave companies and start their own companies is because they have this very creative idea. And they tell their boss about it, and the boss ignores it or shuts it down. So they're like, oh, this is such a great idea. I have to try it out. So Google in the early days launched something called 20% time, which is saying, hey, one day of the week, you can work on anything you want. You can even grab other Google employees to work together on this project, as long as the intellectual property still belongs to Google. So suddenly all these entrepreneurs are like saying, oh, there's so much work to start my own company. It's very risky. Why don't I just do it within the comfort of Google? And so this 20% time actually generated half of all the products that Google launched during those years. And it still has some of the most successful ones, like Gmail, which I think a lot of people are using, and Google News and whatnot. So my wife, she works in finance. She works in banks as a financial engineer. And then she tells me, when she first heard all this, she's like, yeah, that all sounds nice and fuzzy and cuddly. But at the end of the day, people will still take the job that pays them the most. And I thought about it, and I was like, actually, no, because Google, during those early days, they actually advertised that they paid 10% below the market rate. And they said, hey, because if you're here for the money, we don't even want you. We want people who would like to work with the smartest people in the world and challenge the hardest problems in the world. And during this time, it's truthfully, every smartest people I know just concentrated at Google and Mountain View, and they all wanted to work there. I had a friend, even 10 years later, I had a friend, case in point. This person graduated from his school, and he had two offers, one from Microsoft, one from Google. Microsoft offered him $165,000 a year, and Google offered him $130,000 a year. So he went to Google and he says, hey, Microsoft is paying $35,000 more. If you match them, I will join you. And Google says, nope, take it or leave it. But then he still decided to join Google because he said he grew up dreaming about working at Google because they're so inspiring with their epic meaning and calling and all this stuff, right? So this stuff is very tangible. It's not just, hey, it sounds fun. You can get cheaper talent and better talents and make them inspired and excited to work at this place as opposed to, oh, why I'm just trying to make a living. So move on to core drive 4, ownership and possession. This is the drive that says because we feel like we own something, we want to improve it, we want to protect it, and we want to get more of it. So this deals with things like virtual goods, virtual currencies. It's the drive that makes us want to collect stamps or baseball cards. And this deals with one of the biggest case studies in gamification, even in this region, that's in Brazil. So, and this is through a student of mine, Ricardo, who runs this company called Funny Fire. So Caixa Econômica Federal was the second largest public bank in Brazil. And they wanted to gamify the activities of all 83,000 employees across 4,500 locations. So it doesn't matter if you're HR or sales or financial analyst, everyone's task should be gamified. And their goal was to increase their recurring profits by 5%, which sounds pretty hard, but if people are passionate about their work, it seems to be possible. So Ricardo worked with Octalysis, and we introduced the collection card design, which again is core drive 4 ownership. So first of all, we tied every employee's KPI activities into a gamified system. And when they start hitting milestones, the system will generate a random card. So the card could be 1/4 of a TV or 1/2 of a coffee maker. And if they get all the parts, they actually get the physical reward. So now employees got very excited about doing their work because they feel like whenever they reach a milestone, it's like opening a treasure box or doing a spinning wheel. And so they actually hit their goals of 5% in 3 months. So Ricardo reached out to the CEO and said, hey, we reached the 5% goal in 3 months. So what do we do? Should we stop? And the CEO says, no, keep going, right? It's working. So eventually they realized that the bigger the reward they're giving out, the more money they're making, and they have all this excess cash. So they started giving their employees free cars also. And so at the end of 9 months, Caixa actually increased their recurring profits by 46%, which at the time of the conversion rate was $1 billion US. And because of that, Caixa rose from this number 2 public bank in Brazil to the number 1 public bank in Brazil. And Ricardo had some previous college classmates who worked at the biggest bank. I think it's called Bank of Brazil. And they saw the numbers, they were shocked, and they called him. They're like, hey, what's going on? What happened? And Ricardo explained, hey, this is because we're doing this Octalysis gamification thing, and it created a lot of value. And so actually, this trip in Latin America, when I was in La Brasilia, for the biggest bank, or the former biggest bank, Bank of Brazil, they wanted me to share a lot of things. They want to learn more about this case study, right? Core Drive 5 is social influence and relatedness. So this is basically saying things we do based on what other people do, think, or say. So this deals with things like collaboration, competition, group quests, also gifting. And this connects to a case study we have with Procter & Gamble in Eastern Europe. So I think this is implemented in Poland. And so this is about motivating their salespeople to go knock on different retail stores and say, hey, would you like to replenish on your Procter & Gamble products? Or we have new products, do you want to put on the shelf? And as you know, these knocking on door jobs are not that engaging. But they had another problem, which is the salespeople, they don't want to help each other out because they saw each other as the biggest competitors. So what we designed is a gamified platform for the salespeople to log in, and it's called Adventures of the Endless Sea. So when they log in, it says, hey, now you are a 17th century merchant trader, and you have your ship, and you have your health and your wealth. So your health is tied to your KPI activities. If you do your KPI training and knock on doors, you'll stay healthy. If not, you'll drop in your health. If you close deals, you'll increase your wealth and you can upgrade your ships. And it has different perks, like getting more data faster. And we even changed their navigation app, so when they're driving to the client locations, it looks like a ship sailing in the ocean to the ports. But most importantly, we created a design where there's a town where everyone shares and it has town health and town wealth. So if everyone's doing their KPI activities, the town is healthy. And if people close deals, then the town gets funding to invest in infrastructure like a bank or a hospital or a library. So people started seeing each other as colleagues working together to build this town together. So the results were pretty strong. The sales and training KPI activities increased by 59%. Sales revenue went up by 28.5%. Now keep in mind, they were already the largest in Eastern Europe, so this is a very tangible number for them. Social interactions was very hard to measure, but they said based on seeing the employees interacting with each other, helping each other, they said it's at least increased by 300%. And this, because of that, this won Best Gamification Project Award in 2017. And usually when companies want to win an award, that's when we're allowed to share this because most of them are confidential. So over the years, I think we have 15, 20 good case studies, and it's because of Core Drive 2, right? Development accomplishment. They want to be known as the most innovative company in their country. And because of that, we're blessed to be able to share some of the work we're doing. Core Drive 6 is scarcity and impatience. So this is the drive that says we want something because it's hard to get or it's very difficult to obtain. And this actually connects to the online learning platform called BitDegree. So this is about learning programming and also blockchain. So for online learning courses, even if people pay for it, the completion rate is very low, usually between 3 to 5%, 10% if they do a good job. So when we designed this futuristic cyberpunk city, we're saying, hey, you start in a district, and immediately when they start, they see all the places they cannot go to. So this is the scarcity. We show you stuff, but you can't have it right now. You actually have to complete your courses. We also give people a daily chest they should open. So if they don't come back every day, they miss that opportunity. And then there's a daily streak. So every day they have to come back and open it. So they did some A/B testing, and they saw that the course completion rate increased from 10% to 45%, so 3 times more. The time on platform increased by 300%, and course completion time was reduced to half. So 3 times more people are completing courses at half the time. And so I think we did this project around 2020, and even last month, I saw their social media, and they were still saying how happy they were with working with Octalysis on that. Core Drive 7 is unpredictability and curiosity. So this is saying that because we don't know what's going to happen next, we're always thinking about it. So this deals with mechanics used in the casino industry with gambling. But whenever you have a sweepstakes program, a lottery system, a raffle ticket system, you have this core drive. It's also the drive that makes us want to finish a book or movie, which is why we don't like spoilers, right? We don't like to know how things should end before we're ready for it. And this is an education platform called Octalysis Prime. Again, it's my platform. We want people to come in every single day. So whenever they come, they can also open a daily chest, but something random, a surprise will appear on a daily basis. So here, there's a little wolf on the top. You go to the section, and it'll ask you a question about gamification. And so if you get it correctly, then you will capture this little creature and put it in your album. And if you get it incorrectly, it will run away. So we have a lot of stories on the platform where people come back every day, but then they saw a mystical geomon or legendary, only 0.2% chance of showing up. And they were very excited but they got the question wrong, so they were very sad, and they wanted to make sure they learn all the videos and learn everything so they never get these questions wrong again. And so literally, there are some people, for the last 5 years, they've been on this platform every single day coming back because there's that surprise element. They feel like it's very interesting. Core drive 8 is loss and avoidance, so it's something that you want to do to avoid a loss. You don't want something bad to happen. It's the fear core drive, or fear of missing out, FOMO core drive. And this is something called Forest. So it's a productivity app where you set a to-do list. Like you said, I want to work on something, and then a countdown timer. Once you finish the countdown timer, it plants a tree into your forest. But there's a gimmick to it, which is if you get distracted and start playing with your phone, it will show you your tree dying. And it will plant this dead tree into your forest, so you'll have to stare at your failure for the whole year. So you feel pretty sad about it. And so this app, which was developed in Taiwan, had 40 million downloads in 2021, and 7 million of these people were paying. Even though they're being punished with this mechanic, they actually want to pay for this product because it helps them stay focused. Of course, the language learning of Duolingo also helps people focus on doing streak design, so people don't want to lose their streak. So that's why they're like, oh, I have to keep coming back every day. So one of my Octalysis Prime members also got this 1,500 days in a row streak. So almost 5 years, every day they're using Duolingo. So it was very, very impressive. All right, so those are the 8 core drives of the Octalysis framework. But it's important to know that it's on an octagon shape for a reason. The left side, we call them left brain core drives. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's on the left side of the brain versus right side of the brain. But the left brain core drives deal with extrinsic motivation, things to do for a reward, a purpose, or a goal. But you don't necessarily enjoy the activity itself. So once you obtain the reward, you hit your goals, or you get used to the reward, you stop doing the activity. So this is good at attracting people to the experience. The right brain core drives deal with intrinsic motivation. These are things that we just enjoy doing to the point that we're even willing to spend money just to experience it. And so even if we lose all our progress the next day, we would still want to do the activity today because that's how we measure our quality of lives. We don't, how much time we just spend on things we enjoy doing. So we don't need a reward to enjoy using our creativity or hang out with our friends or being that suspense of unpredictability. Now, most companies like to do extrinsic motivation because it's easier, right? If you want people to do something, just give them a reward, a badge, a certificate, as opposed to making the activity interesting and fun. But usually it's important to make people enjoy doing the activity, right? Give them some more creativity, meaningful choices, make it more social, add more surprising, delightful experiences. Very important. Now, the top and the bottom also have a difference. The top ones, we call them white hat motivation core drives. If you're doing something because you feel like you're connecting to something bigger than yourself, you're achieving mastery, and you're also using your creativity, feels very good. But there's no urgency, so you procrastinate. The bottom core drives are called black hat motivation core drives. If you're always doing something just to avoid a loss, just because you can't have something, or just because you don't know what's going to happen next, it's still extremely powerful in driving our motivation, but in the long run, it could leave a bad taste in the mouths because we feel like we're not in control of our own behavior and we could burn out. So again, white hat motivation makes people feel powerful, in control, they feel good, but there's no sense of urgency. Black hat motivation makes people feel urgent, obsessed, even addicted, but in the long run, again, they could burn out because they feel like they're not in control. White hat motivation is good for things like community management, loyalty programs, and also creative workplaces where employees should work for the long term. Whereas black hat motivation is good for one-time transactions. You just want people to pay you money, give you their credit cards, or short bursts of activity. Like if you give a competition in your company for a week, people are excited, it's fun, adrenaline's high. But if you have a competition for an entire year, most people don't like to be in a constant state of competing with their coworkers and colleagues. It becomes a cutthroat environment, and a lot of people end up burning out in that environment. So one of the important things is that a lot of companies just like to look at data, because data-driven design, right? And they say, oh, look, whatever works, we're just going to do more of it. But there's a trap to just following data blindly, because black hat motivation always drives urgency. When you follow the data too closely, you're always going to do more black hat. Because, look, punishment works, right? Punishing people, everyone's listening to me, so let's do more punishment. But we know that people don't feel comfortable and happy in that environment, so we have to zoom out and think, what is the nature of that motivation? Do people feel happy and is it sustainable? And so this is why this is alarm clock that is kind of funny, where every time you press the snooze button, it destroys your money. So that's core drive 8, that's loss and avoidance. You don't want to lose your money, so you wake up, get out of bed. But this is okay, because a lot of people want to be in black hat motivation to do things they already want to do, like eat healthily or go to the gym more often. What people don't like is when marketers, employers, governments, educators, parents use a lot of black hat motivation to get people to buy things they don't need, work overtime without proper compensation, or get manipulated. And people will still do the activity because, again, this stuff is obsessive. But the moment they can escape, they do want to. So employees leave the company, customers buy from competitors. Sometimes children run away from home when the parenting strategy is too black hat. But if it's a goal they actually want to do, hey, I want to exercise more, even if the gym trainer is calling them a loser, they're really weak, they still thank you, like, hey, thank you so much for pushing me so hard on that. So once we understand the Octalysis framework and the 8 core drives, then we can start to analyze different experiences. Like Facebook lacks epic meaning calling. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going through this very quickly. You can start analyzing different platforms or policies or anything you want, because this drives all our behavior. LinkedIn is very left brain core drive, very extrinsic motivation. We can look at training platforms like Classcraft or Revolut, a bank. And then once you understand these 8 core drives again, then you can also understand the player journey. So we have, when people join a company or they go through anything, there's 4 phases: discovery, onboarding, scaffold, and endgame. Discovery is why would they join to begin with? Onboarding is the day 1 experience, week 1 experience. How do they learn the rules and tools to play the game? Scaffolding is the regular journey. People come in once a day, once a week, once a month, or 10 times a day, whatever your design is. And the end game is how do you retain your veterans, people who have been there for 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. How have you designed something so they want to stay there and continue to contribute? So for every phase, we think about what core drives motivate people forward. Maybe they join because of curiosity, or because of their friends, or because of this higher meaning and purpose. Onboarding, maybe they feel accomplished, so we trace that experience. And then finally, when we get comfortable with level 2, we can finally push another level to level 3 Octalysis and factor in different player types. So not everyone is motivated the same way, right? So here, for an example, I have Richard Bartle's 4 player types: achievers, explorers, socializers, and killers. And so this is to understand that, hey, different types of people, how are they motivated at different parts of the journey? So you can say achievers, people who like to achieve, they want to try it out in discovery. Onboarding feels good, but scaffolding, they lose motivation, so they drop out. Explorers, they're curious, so they'll try it out, but maybe onboarding is confusing, so they're gone. Socializers, maybe they don't even want to join because there's no socializing features advertised. And the killers, who are the very competitive people, as a random example, they're the people who go from discovery, onboarding, scaffold, and endgame. And in the endgame, they're just there showing off and ponying the newbies. So here we have a framework which is understand how motivation changes, how can we add more intrinsic motivation, unpredictability, empowerment of creative feedback through the user journey. So anyway, if you're interested, you want to learn more, you can check out my book, Actionable Gamification. You can also watch videos on octalysisprime.com. And if you want the slides for today, you can email Simon at octalysisgroup.com. He's our head of Latin America for the Octalysis group. And hopefully that was interesting and enjoyable. Thank you very much.